we're in Numbers, and this week's service is in Numbers 9, and it's about Passover. I've taught at least, I think this is the third time this year on Passover. So when I started digging into it this time, I tried to find something different that I haven't already said. I started getting hung up on the word Pesah, which is the last word there. And I was getting pretty deep into that, and one of the unique things about that is that some of the scholars believe that it doesn't mean Passover, it means protection. And they do a real good job of taking you down that line and showing you how they come to that theory. But then I had an enlightenment or an epiphany. And in case you don't know what enlightenment is, the definition of enlightenment is a cessation of stupidity, a sudden cessation of stupidity. There was something right in my face and I was missing it the whole time. What is the purpose of Passover, Lyndon? What is the main thing we're doing when we celebrate Passover? Anybody? To remember, right? What's this weekend? Memorial Day. So there was a direct tie right there that I missed completely until just about a couple days ago, and I picked it up. Wanna go to the next slide? Bobby? Next? Okay. So Pesach, also referred to as Passover or Pesach, one of the three major pilgrimages festivals of the ancient Israelites that commemorates the exodus from Egypt. Its name comes from the miracle in which God passed over the houses of the children of Israelites during the 10th plague. So what's the big deal? Why do we got to do this every year? He tells us we got to do this every year. Why? And I'm sure there's a lot of young kids, and especially in Jewish families, say, come on, what are we doing this for? I'm tired of this. We do this every year, right? So what's going to make a difference? What's the big deal? Well, Passover is it says it's the second most important holiday of the Jewish New Year, of the Jewish year. Jewish families gather for a ritual meal called Seder during the specific elements, and they recount the history of Israel and retell the story of God's dramatic deliverance of the ancestors. Now, it says it's the second most important holiday. So I looked up and said, well, what's the first? And most of the literature said Rosh Hashanah, which is not even a holiday, but we'll argue about that another day, and Yom Kippur, which Yom Kippur I could see being important because it's when we were forgiven the atonement of our sins. But none of that would have ever happened if it wasn't for Passover, right? All that stuff came after Passover. Without the freeing of the Israelites, the Torah wasn't given. None of that stuff happened, right? So Passover is all about remembrance, both what of God did in response to and what we are supposed to do. Some of the verses that we go to the next one, Bobby. Next one. So some of the verses that tie into the Passover, all of Exodus 12 is about the Passover. And it's about the first Passover, although there are some Jewish sources that claim that the first Passover was actually with Abraham and Sarah when the angels came to visit him and Sarah gave them bread. So they tie the bread from the Passover to the bread that way. I don't think that dog can bark. I just don't think that works. Passover was specifically about, as far as I'm concerned, about the Exodus story. Exodus 12:14, it says, all this day shall become a remembrance, and you shall celebrate it as a festival to God throughout the generations, and celebrate it as a festival for an everlasting law. 12:49 says this: there is one Torah for the native born and the stranger and the sojourners among you. So this is important. At 12:49 is very important because there's a lot of people that say that people that aren't Jewish have no business celebrating Seder. In fact, some of the great scholars say that. Abraham Heschel, Rashi, they all say that Christians have no business celebrating Passover. But we need to understand, one of the hard things I had to figure out was, and Matt beat it into my head finally, is that those scholars, those ancient scholars had dealt with a long period of major anti-Semitism from the church. So they were very against the church getting into doing any of their stuff. But the Torah says different. The Torah says this is for strangers and everyone among you. Exodus 22:21 says, do not tread down a sojourner or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. Exodus 23:9, and do not oppress a sojourner, and you yourselves know the heart of a sojourner, because you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. And the last one, this commandment shows us how we're supposed to treat a stranger. It's repeated many times in the Torah. In fact, it's treated more times than any other commandment in the Torah. It's repeated 36 times about how we're to treat other people. So, next one, Bobby. It talks about remembrance. So we have to see what the biblical version of remembrance is. The word in the Bible, the Hebrew word for remembrance is zakar. Like imunah, which means faith, zakar, which means remembrance, biblically is seen more as a verb than a noun. They're not just an intellectual exercise or something that you just think. These words are used as a result of or a call to action. The one Hebrew word you don't want to forget is the word to remember, zakar. In the Hebrew Bible, to zakar is not merely to rifle through the files in your head until you find a fact that you've been looking for. To zakar is to employ your hands, your feet, and your lips to engage in whatever action that remembrance requires. Many things in the Hebrew world are like that we in the Greek world look at differently. We look at faith as something we believe. I believe in Jesus, so that's all I need to do. I just need to believe in him. Remember, when I'm remembering, I'm just remembering that all this stuff happened. And as Matt talks about often, or last week, about prayer. Prayer is not only just on your knees talking to God. Prayer is your life, and how you live your life, and how you walk and what you do is prayer also. In fact, Gandhi said the most potent form of action is prayer. So action and prayer, it's all the same thing. So we talked about remembrance leading to action. Does anybody have a Bible so I don't have to read all this stuff? Because I don't read very good. There you go. Read Genesis 8:1.
That one?
Yeah.
And Elohim remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark. And Elohim made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided.
When I first read this passage a long time ago, it wasn't that long because I was here, I said to Matt, I said, God remembered Noah. What, did he forget? I mean, was he just sitting there one day and said, oh crap, I left Noah out there in the middle of the water, But this explains what remembering is a completely different thing for God and for the biblical text. And you can see where it says the second sentence in there, and Elohim made a wind to pass over the earth and water subsided. That's the action. Remembering in biblical terms is either causing a reaction or is a result of a reaction, or of an action. 9:15. Anybody else? Genesis 9:15. Nobody wants to read? All right.
And I shall remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living being of all flesh, and never again let the waters become blood to destroy all flesh.
When I read one of the other versions, It worded that a little differently. It said, "And I will never again flood to destroy all flesh." But in this version here, it says, "I will never again let the waters flood." Let the waters become a flood to destroy all flesh. Again, it was an action. He is stopping the flood. When he has a rainbow up there, it's going to stop the flood from destroying all flesh. Genesis 30:22. "And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim listened to her and opened her womb." Again, he remembered and he performed an action to go with it. Exodus 2:24, "And Elohim heard the groaning, and Elohim remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Then, of course, he released the Israelites from slavery. And, of course, we have Luke 22:19, "And taking bread, giving thanks, he broke and gave it to them, saying, 'This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.'" Oddly enough, there's 3 Gospels that talk about this little dinner here, but Luke is the only one that says, "Do this in remembrance of me." Just a little tidbit that I thought was interesting. So this comes to Memorial Day. It's not just the beginning of summer. A little history on Memorial Day, because you get background on it. Most people don't know about it. In 1864, a woman in Pennsylvania placed flowers on the graves of the fallen soldiers after the Battle of Gettysburg. That was the first Memorial Day. On May 5th, Waterloo, New York, in 1866, Waterloo, New York begins hosting an annual community service in remembrance of soldiers who lost their lives. May 5th, in 1868, Major General John A. Logan issues a General Order Number 11, making the day of May 30th the official Decoration Day. And some of us, I don't know, some of us that aren't, young, remember it being called Decoration Day. I remember, yeah, I remember it called Decoration Day when I was growing up. In 1890, or by 1890, each northern state had made Decoration Day an official holiday. Eventually, after World War I, the South would join the North in celebrating this day. The May 30th date held for decades, but in 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which established Memorial Day as the last Monday in May in order to create a 3-day holiday for federal employees. I'm sure the unions had something to do with that. So what are we looking at? What are we remembering? These numbers are pretty sobering if you look at them, and I'm going to go over them just because they need to be thought about. In the American Civil War, we lost 620,000 men and women. World War II, we lost 460,399. World War I, 115,516. In Vietnam, 58,209. The Korean War, 36,516. The Revolutionary War, 25,000. War of 1812, 20,000. The Mexican-American War, 13,283. The War on Terror, 7,057. The Spanish-American War, 2,446. And the Gulf War, 258. Now, there was more than that. These are the major wars that were put out there. They're not talking, they don't bring up many different wars. The war in the Philippines, the Philippine-American battles. What was the one with Clint Eastwood? Come on. Heartbreak Ridge. Where'd he go? Down there someplace. Grenada. So we've had many other little battles and surges and wars that aren't even listed. These are the major wars that are listed, and a lot of people. It's even more sobering. I didn't put it on here, but it's even more sobering when you look at the percentage of the population that died, especially in the Civil War. We lost a lot of people. So when we're thinking about war, I thought we might have a biblical Medal of Honor. looking through to see who some of the famous warriors were in the Bible. And the nominees are David's mighty men. I don't know if you guys remember them, but they were in 2 Samuel 3:8-23, the other band of brothers. Those people, they killed some people, let me tell you. They went out and killed big armies against them. You younger people that play those video games, if they ever made a video game about the Bible, Mortal Kombat would just go away. Nobody would even want to look at it. It would be candy. It would be like walking through the park. Next, David himself. I mean, besides David and Goliath, I mean, he's a well-rounded hero. He was not only impressed on the battlefield against Goliath, but he was also a musician, a poet, and there's a little bit of a babe magnet. He had some things with the women, too. Go to Joshua. Joshua, he takes over for Moses. These the Israelites in many bloody campaigns to get into the promised land. Another forgotten one is Ehud, the left-handed judge. As the picture shows, one of the things he's known most for is stabbing the king of Moab, the old fat guy. They said when he stuck it in, the fat just melted right around the sword. You almost couldn't get it out. Elijah, well, all the prophets were pretty bad guys. I mean, they were pretty cool dudes. Elijah stands above the rest of them with his fireballs from heaven, and he even escaped death and was whisked away on a chariot of fire. So he didn't have to die. He just went alive and well right on out of here. Joab, definitely one of David's most unscrupulous henchmen. He was a bad guy, but everything he did was following orders of David. But David still told Solomon to kill him, so still got killed by assassinated. And of course, what happened to Moses? Did you skip one? Oh no, jail. I'm sorry, I skipped one. Jail. Nothing like hammering a tent peg into someone's head to get their attention, right? Great story. Now we go to Moses. Moses, can you imagine how much gumption it took? He was leading a group of whiny people for 40 years through the desert. I mean, numerous campaigns and battles he had to go through. And these people were just whined and complained constantly. They were, I'm sorry? Definitely, they do. He served as the military leader through countless attacks from neighboring tribes. And then, of course, last but not least, we have Samson. The stories about Samson make him one of the most renowned he-men of the Bible. And then we have Yeshua. Got him a picture up there turning over the tables, which was a pretty brave thing to do if you stop and think about it. I mean, he went into the temple, they had temple guards, they had all these people, and he's tossing tables around and hitting people with cat and nine tails. That part most people glance over and they don't pay attention to, but he whipped some people pretty bad in that story. And then, of course, be willing to die for his cause, above and beyond the call of duty, right? Definitely a Medal of Honor winner. So remembering is a vital thing, and this is what I really wanted to get to right here. We have to remember who I am, who we are, whether it be your family history, whether it be what it is, wherever you come from, what situation brought you to God. You got to remember where you're coming from. When I remember where I come from, it all started about 8 years ago. Up until that point, I was pretty much just all about me, doing what I could to make me a better person, make me a better person in the eyes of the wrong people, for accomplishments and things like that. And about 8 years ago, as you know, most people know here, I took a little dive and pretty much destroyed my life and almost destroyed the lives of everybody in my family, too. Caused a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. And I have to remember that. I have to remember that when I start thinking that I'm such a wonderful person and I can go out and do things that it's all about me. Because I can go back down that path again, and I never want to be in that path again. So remembering where I come from is vitally important for my survival and for the survival of my family. I was graced by God to find the gathering. I was graced by God that he brought my family back to me. And I have to say, I'm not bragging, but things have been going pretty damn well since then. I mean, I left the mission on on July of 2015 and came here. I had nothing but a couple pairs of clothes. I didn't have my wife, didn't have my kids, didn't have any no communication. I now have my wife and kids with me. I have, I've got a new car, I got a new truck, I got a new house. Getting a new puppy. I mean, life has been good to me. So I am very thankful, and I don't ever want to go back to where I was. I've had bigger houses and I've had bigger cars, but I don't ever want to be there again. I definitely was not satisfied or happy with my life. And I wasn't thankful because I just thought everything was owed to me. So what does it mean for me to be a child of God? This is a tough question because, go to the next slide, Bobby. Am I guilty of symbolism over substance? Do I stand up and tell everybody how thankful I am of God and how I'm God's child? And then I go on out and I support, with my pocketbook, companies and people that go against everything that I say I believe in. So since money today is a weird word, it's almost double, is the currency of life, right? So do I bother to take the time to look into who I'm spending my money with and what their ideals are? And do they support things that I say that I'm against or that I think that God's against? Me and Matt were just talking the other day about switching from, he's on Verizon and I'm on Google Play, and we're both starting to switch over to Patriot Cellular because Verizon and Google Fi both support organizations that we disagree with. But what about everything else? Do I go to Walmart? Does Walmart support my ideals? Am I willing to give up and pay an extra $100 for a television to buy it from a company that supports the ideals that I believe in? Or is it just too easy to go ahead and get it at Walmart? Or does it really matter? I use an example, if I get it up there. Well, I didn't tell you to switch yet, but for those of you that believe there's a heaven, and you believe that someday you're going to be in front of those pearly gates as they talk about, and Peter's going to be up there, St. Peter's going to be up there, and he's going to be checking off the list. And you say, but I've done everything. I go to church every week. I even teach at the church, and I teach the kids, and I serve at Camp Hope. And he says, but you support, can I say it? Or am I too afraid to say it? You support abortion. Well, how do I support abortion? I don't believe in abortion. You support it with your money. You buy products from people that support it, and they're taking that money and they're promoting it with their dollars. Am I afraid to say that in the room? Am I too afraid to say that I don't think God agrees with abortion because I might offend somebody? Do I hold back? These are all questions that are hard for me because I don't know I don't know that, well, I know for sure that I haven't done my homework, that I haven't done what I should be doing, that I haven't done everything that I could be doing to make sure that I have spent my money and my time and my efforts in places that are going to be glorifying God. And sometimes we say, well, it's a journey, and not everybody's convicted to be there yet, you know what I mean? But again, is that going to be a good excuse to St. Peter up there? And like I said, that's an imagery thing, but is that going to be a good excuse? Are you going to be able to say, well, you know, I would have done that, but I wasn't convicted yet. So I was waiting around to be convicted before I decided to quit doing this thing that God said I shouldn't be doing. You know, I don't know. So that's where I'm at. I don't know what what all the responsibilities are, but I do know that I have to start paying better attention. I don't think it can be turned around overnight, but I do think that I at least need to address it. I think it's almost like if you were to say, am I a good mother? Well, at least you're asking the right questions now, right? So that's a start. So maybe we can start paying attention to these things a little bit closer, and guiding ourselves in ways that will glorify God, which is what we claim we are. That's the symbolism that we put out there, that we're children of God. The song said it, didn't it? The song said, child of God. So if I'm a child of God, I need to act like it, and I need to think like it. And so what does that look like? What does, Matt always says when we teach, we have to come up with something that's going to change our Tuesday. You know, we know all this great information, but if it doesn't change how we act on Tuesday, what's the difference? What is it? It's back to collecting information. So it's going to change my Tuesday. I doubt that I'll do it all, but I'm going to start paying a little bit more closer attention to what I do and where I spend my money, and what I associate with, and how that goes towards glorifying God. And while we're glorifying God, now that's my puppy. I'm picking it up tonight in Missouri, and well, tomorrow actually, but we're going to Little Rock tonight, staying overnight, and then going into Missouri and picking it up and then coming back. It's a Old English sheepdog, and if anybody knows what an Old English sheepdog looks like, if anybody doesn't know what an Old English sheepdog, just think of me. Pudgy, gray-haired, shaggy, not kept well. That's an Old English sheepdog, you know? They say you should always have a dog that looks like you, right? So that fits. We're going to change the name. Its name now is Cal. It's only 7 weeks there. And we're going to change the name to Moses because it's a sheepdog. What else would you call him? Moses. So anybody got anything? Questions, answers, suggestions? Yeah. The closest one I could find. There's only 1,000 sheepdogs left in both England and United States combined. They figure within the next 5 years, if something doesn't change, they'll be on the endangered species list. So.
They're so freaking cute. They look like they're blind with their hairs in their faces. One more left.
So, all right. Well, as they say at the local bar, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It's hotel motel time.